Hello and welcome back to the Villa podcast. We are here in the aftermath of Aston Villa 2, Lille 1 in the first leg of this Europa Conference League quarter-final game. The main storyline here is that Villa did what we need to do. We will take a one-goal advantage, a slim one-goal advantage to Lille next week, as we attempt to reach a semi-final with either Olympiacos or Fenerbahce. Though given how that tie went today, you imagine it will be against Olympiacos. But yes, as I said, that's the headline. Villa did what they needed to do. It was kind of a summary of Villa home games this season. I feel like if you kind of put all of the 90 minutes that Villa have played at Villa Park this season into a kind of AI generator that compiled them into one game, it would be this. It would be a performance in which Villa were free-flowing going forward, which we were able to create chances. Ollie Watkins scores. John McGinn's there are 2 goals from set pieces. John McGinn gets the second. And then we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot as the game goes on and on and on. We obviously concede an offside goal, which, we don't really wake up to the warning signs. We then concede a goal later on in the game to make it 2-1. And then it ends up being quite a nervy finish that it never needed to be. And it's very difficult because I wanted to come on this podcast and talk about the game, and I'm on my own. Dan is currently living the life out in Madrid at the moment. No doubt he'll have been keeping up with the game. So if you're listening, mate, hope you're having a great time. But it was another kind of, we leave Villa Park not frustrated, that's definitely not the right word, but we have made next week a lot harder than it needs to be. And I think you can see the way that Lille played in that game, how Paulo Fonseca is such an astute manager. He's very, very competent at this level. I think, to be honest with you, Lille, he's a real coup for Lille. And to be honest, the 2 managers on the touchline is quite the tactical battle. That's not a tactical battle that would look out of place in any round of the Champions League, to be honest with you. But you can see how difficult Lille away is going to be, given how they kind of came and played today. They were very well set up. They had clearly spent a lot of time looking at what we were going to do, because they didn't get sucked in and press us as teams have kind of wisened up to doing, and they were quite happy to sit off us and exploit the gaps in that defence when they emerged. And we'll talk about that, particularly in the second half, where they had a little bit more luck in front of goal. But Lille dominated the ball in the early stages and throughout the game, really. We saw that in the early stages, Andre in their midfield got a lot of touches of the ball. He was very much involved from the get-go. There was a lot of passes. They end the game with 59% possession and were kind of good value for around 60% possession throughout the game. Jonathan David was a threat in behind, but in the opening kind of 10 or 15 minutes, neither side really created a lot. And whilst Lille dominated the ball, they didn't necessarily look the most likely to score first. The kind of first real opportunity kind of came out. Diego Carlos is in the corner flag and is under a little bit of pressure, tries a back pass, which eventually falls to the feet of Jonathan David, which he can't quite make the most of. And so the chances in the first half, or the big chance in the first half, was very much of our own doing. You've then got a one-on-one, which Lille carve out for Zegrova just a few minutes later, and he kind of lets the ball run across his body in the hope that it will come onto his left foot. Kind of isn't able to take it quickly, has to wait that extra half a second, which allows Emi Martinez to rush out to the ball and make a one-on-one save, as he had to do a few times tonight. And it kind of got me thinking as to whether we do have the best one-on-one goalkeeper in the world. I think he has that World Cup final save, which really put this particular ability of his on people's radar. It is certainly in my lifetime and maybe ever the most kind of iconic save in a World Cup final that I can think of. And I think since then, people have really wisened up to just how good Emi Martinez is in those one-on-one situations. He makes a great save from Zegrova, and then there's kind of half chances at either end, really. And then we get the goal. Ollie Watkins, it's a great set piece routine. It's really ingenious, and Austin McPhee really can't get enough praise. the ball is an in-swinging corner, and there's several kind of blockers in the middle. It's almost an NBA-like kind of screen system, almost like for a kind of fans of the NBA. It's a bit like a floppy motion in that you kind of have the several kind of blockers set, and then Ollie starts a run and kind of circles around the entire pack to kind of run around to the back post. And he's virtually unmarked because of all the kind of blocking that's going on around the penalty spot. It's a really, really clever move. Nothing illegal, like just simply players being in the right time to block off defensive runners and stuff like that, which allows Ollie to circle round in kind of a full half, like semicircle, right round to the opposite post. And he tucks it away. Yet another goal for Ollie Watkins. I mean, we kind of, every week we're running out of superlatives as to what you can say. The amount of goals that he has now, 25 goals alone this season. That's the most, the joint most by any Villa player in any season since 95-96. So he's finally matched Dwight York. He will all but certainly edge ahead in that total. 10 assists as well to boot. So that's 35 goal contributions this season for Ollie Watkins. It's just incredible. Another game, another goal. He's going to games now expecting to score rather than just hoping to score. If you go to Villa Park nowadays and Ollie Watkins doesn't get on the score sheet, you've kind of not had the full experience at this point. And we go through into half time, and there were some shaky moments in the first half. I don't want to sit here and say it was all plain sailing, because it wasn't. There's another save that Evan Martinez makes one-on-one from Jonathan David at around 40 minutes. But then at half-time, and I just wanted to mention this because it got called up on commentary, and I'm not too sure people in the stadium will know about it. There's apparently an incident at half-time. Tempers really flared up, whether it was in the tunnel or the dressing room, whatever it was. We never got to see any footage, and we kind of only heard a brief summary from the commentary that between the Lille coaching staff and Emery's kind of right-hand man, Paco Ayestaran, and then the goalkeeping coach, Francisco Garcia, both of them were then instructed to see the game from the stands. They weren't allowed back to the dugouts. Whether there were any punishments for Lille's coaches, I'm not sure, but I don't believe so. It doesn't look like the fallout from that will be kind of anything too serious. But yeah, clearly there was a bit of needle on the benches going into the kind of halftime break, and that spilled over into the dressing room. So be interesting to see whether anything kind of comes out over the next 24, 48 hours about that particular incident. But clearly the tempers that were showing in the dressing rooms filtered through to the players, and Villa made a fantastic start to the second half. We create a chance really early on. There's a kind of chipped ball that's played into Ollie Watkins. He backheels it for Leon Bailey. It's a really nice move. They got all the oohs and ahs from the Holt end. But again, we always kind of felt that we were a little bit susceptible at the back. But Lille were too. It wasn't exactly a stellar defensive performance from them. And then there is the big penalty shout from Ollie Watkins. The kind of ball goes in behind. He's barged into, and it's one of those where I think it's a penalty I think it's a foul almost anywhere else on the pitch. It's one of those that as soon as it's into the box, the lines become a little bit blurred. And we have seen, I think it's worth bearing in mind, from the Champions League right down in UEFA competitions, the UEFA referees are really letting play flow a little bit more. The threshold for kind of what is a foul and what isn't is definitely higher than what we are seeing in the Premier League. And so I was a little bit surprised that VAR didn't have a bigger look at it, that more wasn't made. But yeah, it's one of those where I think in UEFA competitions, maybe that's kind of where the bar's at. So an interesting one there. We didn't get the penalty for that, but shortly after it didn't matter, because again, from another set piece, it's cut back to John McGinn on the edge of the area, and this is fantastic, and it kind of goes full circle from John McGinn, who assisted the first goal for Ollie Watkins. He scores the second, and it's set back to him on the edge of the area. And this is something that we're seeing a lot from John McGinn, in that the desire and the kind of instinct to hit things with his laces and rifle through the ball, as he so often does on that left foot, has kind of given way to this ability to open up his body, and just the way there's an angle from behind where he kind of bends it into the far corner. It's the corner of the corner, sorry. It starts way outside the post and bends in absolutely magnificently. It is absolutely snug. He couldn't have placed it in that bottom corner if he had walked up and rolled it in from 2 yards out. It's magnificently placed from about 18 yards from the skipper. And from that moment on, we're 2-0 up, and it should have stayed at that. Lille did, as I've said, did create openings throughout the game, and they did find a way to play through us. I think it should be said. But then there's the offside goal. We don't wake up to the warnings, and this had kind of been happening throughout the game. They were calling it a kind of switch on commentary. I don't think that's the right word, but it's more a kind of cross from deep areas into the back post. Villa, we know, we like to be very compact, very narrow defensively. And this is where I have great respect for Fonseca, really, in the way that he set his team up going into this game. Because there's a ball on for Goodmanson at the back post, which I think it's Zegrova picks out. And it had been on a few times throughout the game, and we never really livened up to it. He runs on and finishes it, and we were very fortunate to see it ruled out for offside. VAR have a look. We didn't see the lines until about 5 or 10 minutes later in the game. For those of you that have been at the stadium, you may not have seen it until you've seen the highlights. It's a hair's width. It's such a narrow decision. You have to trust that they get it right, and then it is rightly offside. But the alarm bells should have been ringing, really, for this at this point for Villa. And Emery, throughout the game, even when we were 2-0 up, was tearing his hair out. And they were being very jovial about it on comms and saying, oh, look how high the standards are. And I never really felt like it was that. I think throughout the game, Villa were kind of consistently showing that we were going to be susceptible and that we could be carved open. And we've all seen it before. As I said, we've spoken about this many times on the podcast this season, that we really, really struggle to keep a clean sheet in a home win. We haven't kept we've only kept one clean sheet at home since that week where we beat Arsenal and Man City in the space of just a few days. It was Wolves at home just a couple of weeks ago. We really, really struggle, and then they do get one back in the end, Lille, and it's a bit sloppy, but it's Diakite, that gets one back in the 84th minute, and we really kind of have to cling on and see it out. Lille mustered up 7 shots on target tonight to our 4, 59% possession, as I said, 11 shots to our 12, and 92% passing accuracy, completed 470 passes to our 324. And so there's what Villa needs to be worried about. The offside trap is still functioning quite well. We kept them offside 6 times in this game, and obviously the goal as well, but it's kind of starting to feel a little bit less by design at points, and Villa are definitely being fortunate. And we will really, really have to wisen up, because the next 2 games are huge against Arsenal and Lille. And if we're not really on it in those games, those teams will be able to exploit us. And I think we kind of have to see going into the Arsenal game away, which is just so tough. We haven't won there. We've only won 1, of our last 6 away games. Arsenal, a 3-0 win there in November 2020. And so all of the number, Arsenal aren't a team that we necessarily do very well against. We haven't done a double over them since 1992, 93. I think actually we may have done so once, since then in 2020, 2021, which includes that 3-0 win, which I just spoken about. But we know that we travel quite well to the capital. I think we'll do very well to go there and get a result, particularly on a Sunday. It's the big game. It's on Sky. I think we kind of have to accept that it will be very tough for us in the same way that going to the Etihad was. And if we don't wisen up between now and Arsenal, basically, and then we've got even more time should we need it between now and the Lille game, Villa can be exploited. We can be cut open. There is opportunity there. And I trust that work is going in at Bodymore, but something isn't quite right in that defence. We're seeing far too much of how good Emi Martinez is, which is a pleasure on one side, but on the other, you wish you never quite had to see it as much as you do with Villa nowadays. But hey, we can't complain too much. 2-1 is a fantastic scoreline. Lille are a really, really good side, and they showed that tonight. I kind of said in the preview that I think Lille fans will be quietly optimistic that if they get through this tie, then I think they consider themselves not even dark horses at this point. I think they're one of the favourites to go on and lift the competition. So it'll be really, really tough in France, and I think we'll find out exactly what Villa are made of come next Thursday. It's a slightly earlier kickoff time, 5:45 in that one. So make sure you're back from work, you're in the saddle, and you're ready to go for 5:45, unless you guys are going to France, in which case enjoy it. But yes, a big Premier League away game between now and then. We've got to have all focus on the Emirates on Sunday for what is a massive, massive game there. And that was the tale of the tape, really. That's how it went tonight. One more shout out for me was for the gaffer. 1,000 games in management is quite an incredible achievement. So, Unai, you definitely not watching, but if this somehow reaches you, a very congratulations, Mister. On that, what a milestone to hit at just the age of 52 as well. That's quite incredible. There could be yet another 1,000 to come when you compare him to some of the other managers in the league. 52 is very young in a managerial career, and when you consider what he's achieved already, perhaps the best is to come, and certainly the best is to come in claret and blue, I think. So I think that just about sums it up, guys. I think that's enough rambling from me. I will leave you to either your Thursday evening or your Friday morning, whenever you are listening. Thank you very much for listening. Dan and I will be back at full capacity next week, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Arsenal review will come just after the full-time whistle, hopefully on the weekend. We'll either have that to you on Sunday evening or sometime on Monday. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. The Villa Filler is back. Make sure you tell your friends. We had a little bit of a break. Dan and I were off doing some personal stuff. We're back at full capacity. We're back bringing to you the episodes at the pace that we'd like. So make sure you tell all your friends. We are back. The views have been a little bit slow on some of the previous episodes, so just want to make sure you guys know that, yeah, the Villa Filler podcast is here to stay, baby. Have a very good evening. What a win for the Villa. See you next time.